the tape, let's grind. Shut up, the tape, let's grind. The tape. We do it a little bit different around here.
We ain't gonna play, shut up and grind the tape.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, shut up and grind the tape.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape. Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
The tape.
UGA game day, boy, we ball out. Pull up, put the whole conference in the doghouse. Leave them 6 feet, see me on the win streak. All-star status, go coach, and the bench deep. Right. Offense on 10, how we run it? Your best ain't nothing, we gon' send them boys punting. Yeah. Black and red, got them dead on arrival. Defense hunker down for the tie. Hey, you don't want it with the dogs. Found guy on it, you don't want it with my dog. Break it down, play by play, that's the day-to-day. Yeah. They know we ain't come to play, boy, it's UGA. Right. Kirby Smart, I cannot play the fool. Back to back, we did not come to lose. Back to back, like we got something to prove. Pay your dues, dog nation on the move. What's up?
We do it a little bit different around here.
We ain't come to play, shut up and grind the tape.
The tape.
We ain't come to play, them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't come to play, shut up and grind the tape.
Shut up. Let's grind.
We ain't come to play, them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
Shut up.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Film Guy Network on a fabulous Monday afternoon. You know, the key to being a good football player, Jonathan, is to be able to respond to sudden adversity, sudden change, right? Football's a game of momentum. You know, Uncle Mo be hopping around sideline to sideline, be messing around, going everywhere in that football game, right? You got to be ready and adaptable to make adjustments to sudden change in the game of football. No different than being a subscriber to the Film Guy Network. Around here, most of the time, you're going to get an 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock stream. Every once in a while, bam, Monday at noon, here we are.
A good nooner. I think this might be the most electric nooner of all time. You know, people say noon slay, that's kind of just easing your way. Not here, not this week. Noon starts today. It's the most electric time of the week.
Boy, Fox spent millions on Big Noon Kickoff. Here we are in Mom's basement at noon, pulling numeros. That's what we expect to do today. We expect to pull numbers. We expect this audience to show up and show out. Now, I know that about, 1 out of every 10 viewer actually watches us on live. 9 out of every 10 probably watches us on demand, as the kids say, right? On a restream. So shout out to you. However, wherever you found this, we appreciate you for being here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, review. Why are we at noon today? Well, we're at noon today because it is state championship weekend here in the state of Georgia, and it is prime time high school football. So not only do we want to allow all of our viewers to enjoy that prime time state of Georgia high school football, but yours truly wants to go. I want to be up in that building watching those most important football games. We got some big ones today as Bowden takes on Brooks County and North Oconee takes on Marist, okay? Today inside Mercedes-Benz, we will be there. So shout out to those guys. We'll be enjoying those. Shout out to you guys for being here today. Shout out for us being a two-man team today. How about that?
Love it.
Yeah, that bum Christian Kirby up out of the studio today.
He might be waking up right now.
Yeah, just rolling out of bed.
Yeah.
I give him one to what? Let's give him plus 250 odds to show up in the chat.
Yeah, we'll start out at plus 250. We'll adjust the odds as the week moves on.
Yeah, adjust the odds as the week moves on. We'll also test your abilities to run those cameras and the comments and the audio.
It's been a minute. You know, my whole thing is I'm hoping the stream doesn't freeze because then there's going to be a whole lot going on at the same time. We're going to really test my abilities, but we'll see. You know, I think I'm about it.
How many multiple hats can the man JWill wear? I will tell you this. You're considerably taller than Kirby. So check that shout out looking for. Yeah, a little bit tall. A little bit tall on the stream for Kirby.
Let's see if we can.
Let's see if we can do this on air. Oh, wrong camera. Wrong camera. Oh,
already off to. Oh, there we go.
There you go. See, got to be adaptable. Got to be adaptable today. Got to be ready to adjust to sudden change. Speaking of sudden changes, Jonathan, transition. People making moves in the transfer portal. Williams Nwaneri transfers from Missouri to Nebraska. Now, this one is called the LOL tampering's a thing, right? Right? That's a rule. Not allowed to talk to these guys. So let me walk you through the Williams Nwaneri timeline. Everybody follow me here. Okay, so Williams Nwaneri, transfer portal opens. Williams Nwaneri, a member, 5-star member of that Missouri Tiger roster. Now, Pete Nakos drop a little nuggy nug out on the timeline. Williams Nwaneri, contemplating, expected to, might enter the portal, right?
Yeah.
Whoo, love it. Now, Williams Nwaneri start to get some sliding with scale majiggies to the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Now, not officially in the portal. Interesting. Interessante, as my friends from the South might say. Interessante. Williams Nwaneri predicted to Nebraska, but not yet in the portal. Williams Nwaneri now officially in the portal. But here's the key factor, Jonathan. Not to be contacted. Enters the portal with a do not contact, meaning if you were to want to get this man's services, how would you contact him? He's not available to be contacted. 5 hours later, breaking news, Williams Nwaneri, a Cornhusker, committed to the Nebraska Cornhuskers. How would they have contacted him, Jonathan?
I believe the word that we're looking for here is maybe some tampering.
Tampering.
Perhaps.
But there's a rule against that.
Rules don't matter.
Yeah, rules don't matter. Rules don't matter at all. Williams Nwaneri, the 5-star, now a Nebraska Cornhusker. They also lost Princely Uman Milan's little brother. Very similar circumstance. Enters the portal 5 hours later. Already an Ole Miss Rebel. Interesting. That's where your brother played just recently. Wrap that one up. Contract might have transitioned over into young bro. Maybe a smidgen less.
Yeah, maybe a little bit less.
It's interesting how that works.
Yeah, I mean, the transfer portal, it seems like there's always new wrinkles with every single player, and I think that's why it's partially so interesting is that you get an influx of players that enter the portal, but all the storylines are very different. Like, it feels like each one is just a different form of recruiting. Like, you know, typically in high school, it's you dwindle down your list as time moves on. Certain things start becoming priorities and whatnot, but when the transfer portal opens and these players enter the portal, like some of them, it's like our guy Eric Singleton, it's, all right, here's maybe a dollar amount, and we're going to find out what the teams are. But then you got a guy like Williams Nwaneri. I'm going to enter the portal, but nobody can contact me because I know where I'm going already. So many different timelines and so many different situations.
You know what I want to check on? I want to check on, because Williams Nwaneri played in 4 games, right? I want to know when those 4 games were on this schedule. Can you look this up for me right quick? When these games were on this schedule, because here's what's important, right? Here's what I want to know. I want to know, were those games early on in the year where he was like, you know what, I'm going to get out here. I enjoyed camp. We're going to practice. My money's checking in. We're all good. And then I'm going to play these 4 games. And then I'm going to call a hard stop. And then I'm going to redshirt. And then as I'm redshirting in my hard stop period where I'm not playing, I'm going to have my agent go ahead and handle all this business that is to be done. And then eventually I'm going to already know where I'm going my next year. Do we have an idea of when he played in his football games, Jonathan?
So I guess the only game that he recorded stats in was against UMass, which was in October.
Correct.
So that was the final game that he would have played, I would assume. Like maybe that's when he hit the 4 cap. And at that point it was, I'm done, not playing in any more games. So you'd have to imagine maybe early on in the season when I think they were playing Arkansas Pine Bluff, something like that.
Yeah.
You would imagine he played early on, maybe kind of figured out, probably not going to work out here, and then you burn the 4th game.
I mean, with a 5-star like Williams Nwaneri, all you'd ever have to do is tap the agent's phone Because Williams Nwaneri ain't doing none of this. I would imagine it's whoever's handling these multi-million-dollar deals, which you would imagine is what he got from Nebraska. I would imagine he got a smooth meal up off the Cornhuskers after getting maybe a smooth meal up off of Missouri this past year as well. So also a lot of conflicting reports right now with regards to the transfer portal market and how much money is being made available, right? A lot of reporting that like numbers are going crazy. Everybody's getting a ton of money. People like, we keep wanting to call him Nick Singleton. People like Eric Singleton reportedly getting close to $2 million. Like people like Justice Terry, people saying he got $10 million. Like that's more than quarterback money. That's insane. If you're getting $10 million prorated over 4 years, that's 2.25, right? 2.5. That's a lot of money. Okay, $2.5 million. That's double what we're reported to Carson Beck's getting right now. You can't be giving that kind of money. I think a lot of this money's fugazi right now. I think a lot of these agents are talking a lot of nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to believe the numbers that are floated around, whether it be a single player, whether it be how much a program is actually using to fully fund their roster. And I don't think you actually maybe get true numbers until like transfer portals, like last year when Ohio State officially had their roster filed out and it was like $20 million. Like that I feel like that number is a lot more believable. But when you start getting these reports of, hey, like they're only spending like $14 million. And then things, I don't know. It's so hard to believe these numbers. Like some people think that the Eric Singleton thing was, they're going to start out at $2 million, go ahead and scare off any other team.
Leaky.
Things like that. Like scare off all the other teams, and then you get his final list, and it's the big boys, the people that will spend the money.
You're an avid Russillo listener, correct?
Yeah.
Russillo has this theory with regards to NBA free agency of studying or trying to figure out who does it most benefit. When you hear these numbers come out, it obviously most benefits the player. Like, let's just make sure these numbers sound astronomical. Let's make sure these numbers sound almost unmatchable. That way, teams will at least attempt to match them. You know, kind of one of those shoot for the moon land or shoot for the stars land on the moon type bullshit. That's, I think, what's going on right now in the agent market. I got a comparison for you, Jonathan.
All right.
You watch a little Major League Baseball? I sure as hell don't.
I do.
Okay. But I know something about Major League Baseball. There's this one team, the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, they kind of like a faceless organization, right? Don't know who the best baseball player for the Tampa Bay Rays is, but you kind of know they're always in the mix. They're always around the bunch, but they're never the best team in baseball. They're never the worst team in baseball. Always got a shot in Major League Baseball. That's the Louisville Cardinals right about now for me. The Louisville Cardinals, we know they don't have the sport's biggest roster. We know they don't have the sport's biggest budget. But they always seem to be like a good 8-4 football team, especially now that they hired an alumnus in Jeff Brom. And here's what they're doing. They're going out and they're buying the equate versions of good football players like a Miller Moss. Miller Moss, A- football player. Miller Moss, A- price tag. Miller Moss, probably not going to cost what most transfer portal quarterbacks cost. Miller Moss, good college football player. Miller Moss going to lead an 8-4 Louisville Cardinal team. That's what he's going to do.
I love the fit.
Yeah.
When Miller Moss got announced to Louisville, I was like, that is like best possible fit for him. I thought maybe he would go somewhere Big Ten, something like that. But hearing that he's going to Louisville, I immediately was like, I love this. I love this for Miller Moss. I love this for Louisville. Like what they want to do offensively, he'll probably put up some good numbers. They'll have some success. His name will remain relevant, but not having to go anywhere where he has to outperform himself.
Yeah, like thank God you didn't go to like a Minnesota.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You'd have to learn that, entire cult in 6 months and then become their new leader. That'd be unfortunate.
Only difference is, and what might be the same for him is, still not going to have a defense. So you're still going to have to try and put up a bunch of points. But nonetheless, Louisville, Miller Moss, I like the fit.
It was weird, though, because Louisville had a scrappy defense the year before. And then, this year just Swiss cheese for a good 4 quarters for the Cardinals there. I wrote my notes. The Louisville Cardinals are kind of like a Honda Accord that's steadily racing skylines. It's a real Gran Turismo reference right there. But yeah, that's what I got going on in the notes.
Okay. I think that with Louisville,
one of those Honda Accords that sounds like it's got an aftermarket what do you call it? Tailpipe on it. Just sounds really loud.
Yeah, I'm not a huge car guy, not getting these references too much, but you know what? I get the gist of what you're kind of building right here.
You telling me a man from Gainesville, Georgia, never watched a Honda Accord with a big tail fin go by him and that sounds like, wow? Never?
Dude, our parking lot
Come on,
at
dude.
high school, what was this? Was these Honda Accords and maybe even some Camrys, they're kind of float in there. But the way that they modeled their cars was they had to go diagonal over the speed bumps.
Oh, yeah. Low rider.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes you hear a little scrape, but yeah, gotta go diagonal over the speed. That's what we had going on.
I love that. Love that for you. Love that for Miller Moss.
Oh, I
love Louisville for Miller Moss. Michael Van Buren. What is up with LSU? Here's LSU strategy. You got a young football player that did well for a middling SEC roster. Ooh, boy, do I have a backup quarterback spot for that guy. Last year, it's A.J. Swan. A.J. Swan has a great year and a half at Vandy, and everybody's like, ooh, A.J. Swan, you should go to Wisconsin and be their better version of Tyler Van Buren. Nope. I want to go be the backup at LSU. Tyler Van Buren, ooh, you should go be the starter for like a Liberty. That's what you should do, Tyler Van Buren. Nope, I'm going to go ride pine at LSU. What's going on?
And weren't there initial reports that he was going to stay at Mississippi State? Like that was it? Like he was going to stay on that roster? He was going to
I don't want no smoke from Jackson Arnold and Jeff Lebby. Do you?
No. But Jackson Arnold's at Auburn now, right?
I don't know what's going on there.
I believe he's at Auburn because then there's this graphic that got tweeted out of highest rated quarterback room in college football, and then one of the guys ended up entering the portal.
But Van Buren running off would make you think that they've already got the Arnold contract signed and done.
No. I agree.
It's weird.
Yeah, so I guess what it is Garrett Nussmeier, since he's coming back, he's going to be the one-year guy next year. He's going to get multiple years as a starter, might put up some similar numbers. I would imagine that he did this year. And then LSU's plan is, hey, it didn't work out for us to get Bryce Underwood. We got to have somebody to replace Garrett Nussmeier immediately. Let's go get a guy with SEC experience. Michael Van Buren kind of did well at Mississippi State, had some shining moments, maybe a year in our system sitting behind Nussmeier the following year. And I think Michael Van Buren is a very exciting football player. I think that kind of fits the LSU brand of what they're typically looking at in quarterbacks, of a guy that'll make some flash plays, maybe put your name in the headlines a little bit. And I think a year sitting behind Garrett Nussmeier, a guy that will know the system, knows the fundamentals, clean type of personnel there. And then you get him studying under Nussmeier. I think it could work out, but still, again, just one of these timelines that I think is very interesting of conflicting things of, hey, he's going to stay at Mississippi State. He's going to be their guy. It doesn't look like they're going to get Jackson Arnold, but then the reports, it makes it seem like they are going to get Jackson Arnold. They ultimately don't get him. Now Michael Van Buren going to be a backup.
This LSU take makes me really, really question what they think of their evaluation of Colin Hurley, and therefore my evaluation of Colin Hurley. If y'all don't remember, Colin Hurley came out of Trinity Christian Academy down there in Florida, where Trayon Webb played, the running back from Florida. Yes. I think he played somewhere else now. I think he transferred out of Florida because of how good Jaden Ball is. Maybe not. I might maybe have my timelines mixed up. But anyways, I remember watching Colin Hurley, 5-star recruit in would have been the 2025 class. So he'd have been a senior this year, I believe, reclassed into 2024 as a true freshman there at LSU now. They take A.J. Swan, right? And then they take this kid, Tyler Van Buren. And it just makes me wonder, like, what have you seen from Colin Hurley? I know all these guys think they need 4 scholarship quarterbacks. I understand that. But there's a difference between taking 4 bodies and taking 2 guys that you think can play because the other guy you think cannot, right? You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
This is not taking the graduate senior from Nevada that just wants a good education and wants to party for a year and be an arm on the roster. This is a guy who's got SEC experience and was highly recruited coming out of high school. So this is a guy that they expect maybe one day can play for them. What does that tell a guy like Colin Hurley? And what does that tell us about their evaluation of a guy like Colin Hurley would be my question.
Yeah, because Michael Van Buren is still a young quarterback.
Very young. He's same age.
Still got some time left on him. So I guess if anything, their hope is Nussmeier leaves. We're going to have a true QB competition between these 2 guys. And then ultimately one of them is going to dip out. They'll go find playing time elsewhere. So I guess it's more so like predicting the future of how you think your quarterback room is going to go and trying to make sure you have complete options when that opportunity presents itself. But I agree. Very interesting. And 2, like, now that we've had multiple quarterback moves happen, like Castellanos goes to Florida State, now Auburn's got Jackson Arnold, now LSU's kind of making some moves. Like, it's kind of and Miller Moss now at Louisville. Like, where does Caden Salter fall in this? Like, is he going to, like, Miami comes to mind for me. That seems like a team that's always looking for, like, a 1-year rental quarterback, especially with what they did with Cam Ward. But where are all the moves going to happen now? I don't know where he fits in.
Where does Murphy end up?
Yeah, that's another great one.
That's another one connected to Miami. Are we sure is Arnold going to end up at Auburn? Is it because for sure? I thought it was for sure Mississippi State, and then now it's leaning Auburn. Is there new predictions going into Auburn? That would make me wonder what in the hell Mississippi State's going to be doing at quarterback.
He's officially transferred to Auburn.
So that's official. What is Mississippi State going to do now? They're going to start Kamario Taylor?
I guess.
Jesus, man. You talking about counting your chickens before they hatch, man.
I mean, dude ain't even been on campus yet.
No. Van Buren's already committed to. Wow. Wow. Jeff Lebby's standing there holding a bag. Oh, my Lord. This. You can tell sometimes on the show when news hits my desk for the first time on air. And that's what just happened right there. News just hit the man's desk on national television. The Eric Singleton market has gone crazy, or at least started crazy, maybe settling. What do you got on this one? The obviously the really talented wide receiver, slot wide receiver, Z-type body type out of Georgia Tech, had a bang-up freshman year, freshman All-American caliber. Then the second year, did he go over $1,000 this year? Did he go over 1,000? I don't know. I know he went for, I think, 814 on the dot as a true freshman last year. I don't know what he did numerically this year.
56 receptions, 754 yards, 3 touchdowns.
And he had 800 yards as a true freshman, right?
I believe so.
Okay, so year 2 wasn't as good as year 1. Their passing game at Georgia Tech wasn't as good in year 2.
He had 714 yards as a freshman with 6 touchdowns.
714, not 814. God, football brain just getting my ass left and right today. But nonetheless, market started out, reports were $2 million. And here are the teams, and you can understand why. Miami, Texas, Auburn, Ole Miss, LSU. Basically everybody but Michigan with a bag. So, yeah.
And when he initially entered the portal, and I think even Georgia Tech fans felt this way of, Singleton enters the portal. I mean, this is immediately after he had a great game against Georgia, and they've kind of seen this play out too, where a guy has a great game against Georgia automatically in the mix against him. This kind of happened with London Humphreys last year of Vanderbilt wide receiver, had a good game against Georgia, enters the portal, immediately connected to Georgia, ends up at Georgia. And I think Tech fans are like, man, this guy's going to go to Georgia now. He's going to get a pay bump. He's going to go play for a better team. And I think it was said that he was going to visit Georgia. I don't know if he ultimately did. And then its top 5 is revealed, and it's, oh, well, that's why $2 million was rumored out, because those are all the schools that are looking for, that'll pay wide receivers. They're known for having good wide receivers, and by God, they're going to fit that dollar amount what you want.
Miami could go from Cam Ward and Xavier Restrepo to Murphy and Eric Singleton. Not as good.
Not as good.
Not as good, but pretty decent. Not a bad way to be out here rebuilding your roster every year. It's expensive, though. That's an expensive route to go. I think he ends up at one of these big football programs. I think the best matchup would be like a place like Auburn, but you know, with that RPO scheme that they run, he could be flashing in front of young quarterbacks really, really early. And you could pair him with a big body target like a Cam Coleman. I think that would be an ideal place. He would be hell in Texas' system as well. The yards after the catch that he could create there would be absurd.
Yeah, I think I like the Texas one too, or even Auburn, because you talked about Cam Coleman pairing him up. And then I think like they have Ryan Wingo. He's going to be entering year 2. You could pair him up with Eric Singleton. I think that would be a good matchup. I guess I don't really know what the future is going to be for Isaiah Bond, but you could find somewhere in that offense for a guy like Eric Singleton for sure.
Bond's got another year, surely.
Yeah, I think so.
Right? I don't think he would be entering the draft. I think they would probably take him back.
Yeah.
Chat has a good point. Moving back to the Mississippi State, they still have Tyler Van Buren, not Blake Chafin. Still have Blake Chafin on the roster. And that's the guy, remember, they took him from Baylor. That was their guy, and took Van Buren out of high school. Chafin gets hurt. They have to move to Van Buren. Maybe Van Buren got the news, hey, we're going back to Chafin anyways. Thank you for your service. We're going to wait the Chafin news out. So that's where they're going to go.
So that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. With Kamario Taylor as their backup. So there you go. But still, you went from, it looks like you're getting Jackson Arnold to going back to Blake Chafin. But I liked what Blake Chafin put on tape. It was at least fun, you know. And that's kind of the key at Mississippi State. Be fun.
Yep.
Be fun. All right. Julian Humphrey commits to Texas A&M. We'll talk about this from the Georgia standpoint in the local hour, but just talk about it briefly from Texas A&M standpoint. They obviously need more cover guys, particularly with the way that they play defense.
And it seemed like one of the Texas schools seemed like the likely landing spot for him. He is a Texas guy, came out of the state. So it seemed like it was either going to be Texas or it was going to be Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M, it makes sense to me. I think that he's definitely going to be a guy that you plug in, you play immediately, and he's needed there. They do need some defensive backs. This is one of these rare transfer portal timelines where everything kind of aligns and it all makes sense. He was tweeting out the things of like, entering the lottery, going to test out my number again.
Yeah.
And you go to a place like Texas A&M, who has already been very active in the transfer portal. They've gotten multiple commits, Humphrey being one of them. So I think that the fit, the timeline, all of it makes sense to me.
There's a kid out of Houston, right? That I think I said as soon as he hit the portal, the day we came onto the air and talked about the news, well, this kid's going to end up at Texas A&M, or this kid's going to end up at Texas. I thought there was no doubt he was going back to the state of Texas. And this is why I think there for a couple of years, I think it was the 2021 cycle, the Kendall Milton, Keely Ringo, Darnell Washington class, where it's like, shit, did Georgia even care to recruit the state? And then they start recruiting nationally, and then you start see them morph as NIL started to morph back to more, hey, let's make sure we get the great players out of this state. Let's make sure we take stabs out of the state. Reason being, all the data points to when these kids enter the portal, the first time they leave, they more than likely end up back closer to where they're, from. They go back west, or they go back to the state of Texas. They go back to their close, area home. And if you recruit an out-of-state kid and you're not playing him and he's on your roster, you have to incentivize that kid to stay away from home for another year. It's not just playing time. So
yeah, I mean, it's different situations, I think, but kind of like A.D. Mitchell, the situation there of a Georgia guy enters the transfer portal, goes back home to Texas, does the 1 year at Texas. Seems like maybe that's what Humphrey's going to do. Is you would assume he would like to do just 1 more year. 1 year at Texas A&M, go to the NFL, do his thing. So very similar timeline, but we'll see how that ultimately plays out for him.
It's tough for him because I didn't think he played bad.
No.
He didn't play great, but he didn't play bad. And at Georgia, you're always going to be fighting off dudes like the entire time. And fighting off a guy that's 6'3", 205 pounds and runs a 10.7 ain't easy. And that's what happened. Daniel Harris beat him out. And
I don't want to do the thing, but like watching Julian Humphrey last year, where you have your two guys, Dalen Everett and Kamari Lassiter are your two starting cornerbacks, but Julian Humphrey gets inserted against Missouri, has a great football game. I mean, probably the best game that he played at Georgia. I mean, he was a playmaker, making plays on the ball, and he was playing like a guy that was trying to fight for his spot either next year or even in this current setting, and then goes and plays against Ole Miss, gets hurt, so misses some time there. Comes back to Georgia. Don't feel like you ever really saw him play like he did last year, like in a Missouri-type game where it felt like 12 was just taking over. I thought he played pretty well against Texas. Yes, he played well against Texas. He had a great game there. But outside of that, just never felt like he really did that on a game-to-game basis. It felt like maybe some single moments, maybe a singular game against your hometown team.
Had a big breakup on a third down against Alabama.
Yep.
In that football game on a slant. But yeah, you're right. I mean, apart from the Texas game, there was no emergence of Julian Humphrey. Very well could happen at his next school. I think what Texas A&M does behooves his skill set. They leave their corners on islands too, like everybody else in this conference. So he's going to have an opportunity to go play the football, assuming he wins the job, right? I mean, They still have Desmond Ricks, a 5-star over there. So I mean, we have to pay attention to that position battle for him. Another name in the portal, and it's a big one. It's Justice Haynes, right? The former 5-star. Was he a 5-star running back out of high school? So. Okay, either way, one of the top 3 or 4 running backs coming out of high school in his class, now in the portal coming out of Alabama. And here's the deal. This was a football player in high school that was, first 3 years in high school, I think he averaged 30 totes a game. Like he was getting used ad nauseum. Senior year at Buford, doesn't get burned into the ground as much as he did his first 3 years at Blessed Trinity. Then goes to Alabama, first 2 years over there. I mean, does he have a single game on the game log north of 11 touches? I don't think so. Like, he did not get used at all at Alabama, so he's going to have fresh college legs wherever he goes next. And it's big boys. Ohio State, Michigan, Ole Miss, LSU, Florida, South Carolina, all in the mix. But it sounds like Michigan and Ohio State are the 2 programs that have a good lean on this. I will say this, knowing this about Justice and covering his recruitment, the Downs family and the Haynes family, relatively close. However, the Downs experiment has gone with that family and how they have felt about their experience at Ohio State will play a role in this recruitment as well.
And what Ohio State has on their roster right now of Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson, two guys that feels like they're going to the NFL. This will be their last year in college. Immediately opens up the door for him to be inserted, maybe even be the number one type of guy. I mean, this year he had one game where he had over 10 touches. He had 13 against South Florida. And he only had 2 games where he went for over 50 yards. And that was not the game he had 13 touches. So it kind of feels like a Trevor Etienne situation from last year where he was a reserve running back on a SEC team, really never cracked the one spot. Now looking for a spot to where he could be a starting running back. Immediately, a Michigan is inserted, and Ohio State is inserted. Michigan losing out on Donovan Edwards this year. He's going to be gone, I would assume. So kind of makes sense.
Another name out of Alabama in the portal. And I don't know how Alabama fans listen to this feel about this football player, but every time I watched him and we broke down tape of him, I felt like he was an impactful player at the nickel position. But Devontae Smith in the portal as well out of Alabama. And again, I don't know how Alabama fans feel about him. Y'all might have thought he was a liability. I thought he was a good football player. Every time we watched him on tape, I thought he was impactful around the ball, didn't miss tackles. He will be a difference maker wherever he lands. I think Justice ends up in the Big Ten.
I think so too.
I think it's a good spot for him as well. I think he's going to be a great back if he gets the touches. It's a matter of touches for him. That is it for the portal news. I want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at BetUS. If you're looking for a new book this season, hey, you're running late, okay? You need to head over to BetUS today. Use promo code YouTube150. You'll get 100% deposit match or 150% deposit match up to $2,000 on your first deposit and 125% deposit match on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000. Again, using promo code YouTube150 over there with our friends at BetUS. We appreciate those guys for being here with us. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, review. Also ask you to like, subscribe, rate, reviews. The subscribe, rate, and review part of that is over there on our podcast. We are made available on podcasts. However, wherever you get your podcasts, just search the Film Guy Network. We are readily available over there. The boy JWill does a great job making those downloads available over there on podcasts. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button over here on YouTube and subscribing as well, firing off in that chat. Jonathan, I thought one of the goofiest takes that arose on our timelines as of recent was people making fun of the idea that Bill Belichick was going to come to college football. I am a college football elitist. I think this sport is great. I think it's the best product that there is for football. That's why I covered this one. I don't know how I would feel about covering NFL football. I know I always say I'm a great fan of football and what a great, display of great football that is on Sundays, but I just don't watch it. I love the pageantry that comes with college football. I love the passion that comes with this. I am an elitist. However, I thought it was just goofy as shit that people were out here, and it may not work. He may not win a national title. He may not win 15 games or whatever at North Carolina. But I thought it was goofy that people came out here and was like, hey, tell me something positive about the Bill Belichick hire that doesn't involve his championships. What? Tell me why this guy's a good football coach without telling me he's a good football coach. How? Tell me why this guy is going to be a good football hire for North Carolina without mentioning that he's won 6 times at the sport's highest level. I don't know. I thought it was so goofy, Jonathan, that people were out here going, oh, you think Bill Belichick's rings are going to impress young high school football players? Yeah. The greatest football coach of all time walking into my living room might impress me, despite the fact that he's 72 years old and I'm 17. What? Yeah. He's the greatest coach of all time. It's going to be impressive.
Also, let's not ignore the fact that his greatest claim to fame outside of having Super Bowl rings is a guy by the name of Tom Brady, who was not a first-round pick, who was not one of these 1% caliber players coming into the draft. This was a guy that they took in the later round of the draft, sat him on the bench, developed him, and then turns into the greatest football player of all time. Like, that plays a role into that too, of especially at a place like UNC. You're not getting the 5 stars typically. You're not getting the number 1 player in the nation typically. But to be able to speak to that, and there's multiple cases of this. I mean, some of the greatest success stories of Bill Belichick in New England are players that didn't even go drafted. One that Georgia fans know is David Andrews, undrafted center, plays litany of years. It was a contributor on multiple Super Bowl teams. I mean, it's not like he was just hitting on his first rounders. I mean, this is a guy that developed players. Julian Edelman, another example of this.
Danny Amendola. I mean, I know he took him off of another roster, but maximized him up there with New England. And you mentioned Tom Brady. And a lot of people do, because of the success Tom had without Belichick and the lack of success that Belichick had without Tom at the end of his career in New England, a lot of people will point that as a negative for Belichick. When if you listen to anything Brady's ever talked about with regards to his career, all of his principles were born and rooted in the Belichick ideology, right? Of doing your job, of being meticulous in the details, of doing all of the things that require for you to win in the margins of this sport. I just found it goofy that people thought, 18-year-olds like Bryce Baker weren't going to be impressed that the greatest football coach of all time is now the head coach at North Carolina. And that's why we're talking about this today, because Bryce Baker announced that he's staying with North Carolina. He's going to stay with his commitment there after opening up after Mac Brown was fired. And by the way, if Mac Brown stays there, I think there's a potential Bryce Baker flips late in the cycle anyways. That commitment wasn't solidified towards the end of the recruitment process there, and now it is. Why? Because the greatest coach of all time is the head coach there, and that's important. Shocker.
And no surprise, the 2026 number one quarterback, Jared Curtis, has already said, I'd love to go up to UNC and talk with Bill Belichick. Like, there's pull. There's pull with really good football players.
It was so weird. Oh, he's old. Oh, he's only one in the NFL. What? He's only one at the sport's highest level. It's so weird. It was so weird to me.
And football's football. Like, he's a great defensive-minded guy. Had great defenses throughout his entire time at New England. So the principles that he instilled to have great defenses in the NFL, while they are not NFL football players maybe at UNC, the principles of what he wants to do, like football is football. Like what he wants to do in New England really doesn't have to change that much at UNC. Like a really good defensive-minded head coach going to find ways to be successful at a college level.
Also, like, and the chat's hitting on it already, like, People just got done. We just got done watching the greatest college football coach of all time, Nick Saban, right? Mm-hmm. And that guy recruited really well on the recruiting trail with all of his lore, right? I'm the greatest coach of all time on this level. That dude is a disciple of Belichick. So all these guys that are in college now running the show, they all have stolen little tidbits from the Belichick tree for decades. And now that tree is in college football, and people are like, oh, well, I don't know if he's going to be able to relate to 17-year-olds, as if he's not dating a 24-year-old. So fucking goofy. Should we walk through these college football brackets, Jonathan?
I would love to.
Let's head to the board.
All right, it is officially college football playoff week. We have home games for the first time in the college football playoff. We have playoff games in home stadiums. Jonathan, started Friday night.
Yeah, Friday night.
Friday night football game, and we'll start with that one. It is the State of Indiana State Championship. Hey, by the way, boys, you can tell we just got done grinding tape. That tape will be made readily available as soon as this live show ends. So guess what? You're locked in right here for 3 hours on the Film Guy Network. I don't know if you expected to do any work today, but your bosses are going to be pissed.
Look, week before Christmas, we know what you're doing at work. You're tapping on your mouse, making sure you're looking busy. We know. You got plenty of time for us this week.
Meanwhile, Santa Claus Brooks out here dropping bags on the table. Just out here giving you goodies. All right, let's do it. I'm going to walk through my college football playoff bracket, and then I will stand up here and walk through Jonathan's for him so we don't have to, take a lab off yours truly and then put it on JWill over there. All right, first matchup we're going to talk about is the Friday night football game. I just got done breaking it down. We're going to do this in blue.
Yeah, good idea.
I can see that better. I think Notre Dame wins that football game just based off the fact that I think their offense is going to create more. I really struggle going into these games thinking Indiana is going to create consistent and easy offense, even though I do think they're going to have some man beaters designed for this Notre Dame defense. So give me Indiana in that matchup. Now, I've already done my playoff predictions, and I'm going to pretty much stay true to these, including Ohio State right here, okay? Now, here's my thing. I've been watching this Penn State SMU tape, and that's what's coming up next on this network, okay? And Jonathan, I'm really perplexed because I think
turn that lav on.
I'm really perplexed here, Jonathan, because I think this football game goes one of two ways, okay? I think SMU wins a shootout or Penn State rolls the piss up out of them. I don't think there's any in between. I don't think there's some 27-24 football game that or 21-14 football game that SMU wins. I think it's either a shootout, SMU pulls it out, or Penn State rolls. So I'm going to go with SMU. And it scares me. I don't feel good about it at all. In fact, I think Penn State's going to win that football game, but I'm putting SMU on the board. All right, let's go on to the next one. I think Texas rolls. Actually, doesn't roll. I think Texas wins a defensive struggle in that football game. And you're going to see it on that tape that we watch of SMU's offense. I think the best defensive line, no. I think the third best defensive line in this playoff bracket is Clemson's, okay? Texas, Georgia, Clemson. And then the rest, way over here. But those three defensive fronts, elite at stopping the run. So I think there's an opportunity that game ends up in a rock fight. I like Texas's chances to win that game. Cade Klubnik, maybe a key late turnover there. All right, should we go through the rest or just pick the first round, Jonathan? What do we think?
Keep going.
Let's keep going. All right, I got Georgia beating Notre Dame right there. Give me a rock fight running the football. Give me Gunnar Stockton for 220 yards passing, 80 yards rushing. Give me a 31-17 Georgia win in the Sugar Bowl. Ooh, some mid-major quarterfinal. SMU run defense been real solid. Oh, man. Oh, God. God. Give me Boise. I should have just picked Penn State there. We could just walk that and make it nice and easy. I know, Kenny Dillingham. I know I've been riding you all year long. I'm going to take Texas there. That's a nice blue screen right there, isn't it, Jonathan? Mm-hmm. Give me Oregon in the rematch. I think Oregon's quarterback play right now is phenomenal. You're going to see that on that film study that we got coming up for you guys in just a minute. And I'm going to take Oregon again there. And give me UGA beating the shit out of Boise in a quarter or a semifinal. That's nice. And then give me Oregon winning the national title with my terrible penmanship.
You know, you and I talked beforehand of it feels really hard to find a championship matchup that isn't Oregon or Georgia, just because, especially the way that Georgia's bracket worked out, of the potential matchups, potential teams, of how things could go for them. And then on Oregon side, like, they're going to have some tough matchups, but Oregon all year has been the most consistent team. So it's hard to pick against a team that has done what nobody else in college football has done all year. So it makes sense to me. And it makes sense why you would pick Oregon too. It's hard not to pick against them right now.
There's no quarterback playing better football right now than Dylan Gabriel in this mix, okay? And you're going to see it. In that Penn State football game, man, he's making throws that I don't trust anybody to make in a college football game right about now. Jonathan, let's go over to your side of the board. I've got Oregon beating Georgia in the national title. What do you got going for us? Let's start in that Notre Dame-Indiana matchup.
I have Notre Dame winning this game. There's just not a whole lot that I trust going into this game for Indiana of like, I think Indiana's going to be better at this than Notre Dame, especially because like Notre Dame covers really well. And if they get made one-dimensional against Notre Dame, Indiana, that run game, if it's not working the way that they want it to, I think Notre Dame's going to find a nice, easy win against them. So it's hard for me to find an avenue where I feel like Indiana could win unless they're just ultra explosive and Notre Dame has no answer. I just don't see that playing out for them.
Explosives and turnovers, like we do with every football team going into a game that we think they're a heavy underdog. You're going to have to win the explosives. You're going to have to win the turnover margin. I'm with you. We're going to poke holes through all these opponents for potential opponents for Georgia in the local hour, but we're going to hammer out the rest of these predictions. Let's go down to the southern end of that bracket. Jonathan, what do you got?
I got Penn State in this one for very similar reasons of why I didn't think SMU was going to beat Clemson. They kind of just had to walk their way through a schedule. Clemson, the first team that they really played that had some guys on a defense that can match up against them. I think Penn State's going to do something very similar. I could see Kevin Jennings having some turnovers, some moments, and them getting into some trouble against Penn State.
Hot take, I've been really disappointed with Abdul Carter's usage this year. They moved him more as a defensive end. I thought he was far better as an off-ball linebacker that was used as a situational pass rusher. As an every down defensive end, he has questionable gap integrity. Let's call it that. Questionable gap integrity. All right, let's go over to this side of the bracket. Jonathan, who you got up in Columbus on Saturday afternoon?
I think Tennessee wins this game.
Woo!
I think Tennessee is because of, I think that both defenses match up really well against the offense, especially knowing that Tennessee isn't really hitting their deep shots consistently with Nico and the wide receivers. Like timing just isn't there. But the difference for me here is I trust Tennessee to be able to run the ball really well against Ohio State. Whereas I don't know how Ohio State is going to fare offensively. Will Howard, are you going to be able to make some big-time plays in this game against a good Tennessee secondary? And they got some really good football players up front. I just think that Tennessee is going to be able to create create more issues for Ohio State's offense. than maybe Ohio State's defense creates for Tennessee's offense. I trust Tennessee's offense more here.
I could be totally wrong. My memory could be serving me incorrectly, but I feel like every time Ohio State gets in one of these big-time heavy clashes, it's a low-scoring affair. It's like a 21-17. Every time they play a Penn State, every time they play a Michigan up north in this time of the year, it is a very tightly possession-controlled football game. And here's my question for you, Jonathan. Which fan base is puckered up tighter knowing that their coach might mess up a clock management situation to end this one?
Oh, that's Ohio State.
Really?
I think so. I don't think either one of them have handled them well.
Tennessee's had 2 quarterbacks run out of bounds on 4th down in football games.
Fair. That's a good call.
I mean, some puckering going on nonetheless in these fourth quarters.
Maybe both fan bases are probably feeling pretty puckered. But, like, I would say that Tennessee at this point, you almost feel like you're playing with house money. Like, bottom line
didn't expect to be here.
Yeah, make the playoff. That's kind of what the expectation was for them this year. Ohio State, you're really puckered up going into this one. You better win this game. You better beat Tennessee in our house.
Tennessee loses a close one here. They're like, hey, wait till y'all see us next year. Wait till y'all see us next year. Y'all caught us in a down year. We out here limping into the playoffs. Wait till y'all catch us next year. You're right. House money.
But yeah, I do like Tennessee in that matchup. And then for the next one, I'm with you. I think Clemson, Texas is a defensive battle, but I do think Texas prevails because, I mean, they played against Georgia twice, most recently this in the SEC championship game. We know that they can play up to that caliber. I just think that Quinn Ewers, I think he is going to be the better quarterback in this matchup, and I trust him more than I do against a Cade Klubnik, a Clemson offense that has had some sparks, but also inconsistent as well, especially when they played some upper-tier programs in the ACC, saw some issues there. I just think that Texas's defense is better, too.
We also have seen what happens to Clemson when it boils down to the other teams got dudes. The other teams got really talented football players. What are you going to do? That's an important football game. There's no way that doesn't end up in a defensive battle, in my opinion. I think Texas struggles with a lack of complexity. The more and more I study them, the more I feel like they have tendencies. They have things that they're hard to stop, but if you stop them, they don't really have answers off of them. I think Clemson can give them a battle. You're right. I trust Quinn late in that football game more than I trust Cade. Cade's legs could be a difference in that one, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Moving on to Georgia, Notre Dame. I'm going to stick with the dogs here. I think that
Homer.
Georgia just having the upper leg here, too, they're going to be creating a new offense with Gunner. Notre Dame not really going to get to scout that. So I think that both teams are going to have a very diverse run game going into this one. And I think that Georgia ultimately, I think they have the better team. I think the defense is going to be better against trying to stop what Notre Dame does, especially knowing that Georgia has seen a lot of different run games this year, and especially one that utilizes the quarterback like Notre Dame does. I just don't see a Notre Dame offense having too much success against that Georgia defense. So I'm going to take a defensive game here and UGA taking the dub. Moving on to Boise State and Penn State. I think Penn State just absolutely rolls here. I think that they handle them, load the box, do what you do, Penn State, win a rock fight style game if you want to. Both teams run the football. Give me Penn State there. Tennessee and Oregon, I got Oregon winning here. Both sides of the football, like I mentioned already about Oregon, they're a lot more consistent offensively than Tennessee has been this year. I think Oregon has the guys to where they could stop Dylan Sampson and really make them somewhat one-dimensional. But I think it'd be a good game. But I would take Oregon in that one. Texas, Arizona State, just Texas's defense matching up against Cam Scatabo. I'll take the Longhorns there. UGA, Penn State, kind of very similar how I feel about Georgia and Notre Dame. If it boils down to the two defenses, I'm going to take Georgia's defense, especially knowing that they had a great game against Oregon, but Penn State's offense has not been one to really put up a bunch of points against some really elite defenses. So I'm going to take Georgia in that one as well. I actually do have Texas beating Oregon, though, in the next round because I think Texas can cover, and that's what you have to do against the Oregon team. That secondary for Texas, they create turnovers. I think you said 2 per game at one point this year. Like, that's kind of what they're averaging. They create turnovers. That's what you have to do against Oregon, and especially knowing that Dylan Gabriel has had issues with red zone turnovers. I can see them spoiling some opportunities against a good Texas secondary, which means I do have a UGA versus Texas rematch.
Texas, I believe the number 3 red zone defense in college football. I believe that is the case. They do a really good job. Who do you got in the rematch? You barking?
This is why I'm going to pick Georgia here.
Oh my God, you're gonna make me bark.
Beat Georgia, Steve Sarkisian.
Beat him.
You got the rematch. I mean, you had a backup quarterback in the second half. It seemed like that was your opportunity.
You had a backup.
you got to beat Georgia for me to start picking you against them. That's just kind of how I feel in this match. Like knowing that Kirby Smart and that defense has figured you out twice now, I would have a hard time picking against them again, even in a 3-time matchup.
Do it. Just do it. Just beat Georgia. Crazy. Oh, man. A third time in 1 year.
Yeah.
Hard to beat a team 3 times.
Sure.
They say it's hard to beat a team twice. That's what they say.
Really hard, I guess, to beat them 3 times.
Yeah. Even harder the third time. Have you ever believed in that? I've always felt like if you beat me twice, the third time I'm not going to have some newfound confidence. I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, we really got them this time, boys.
No, yeah. I mean, you lose to a team twice already. Why would you have more confidence thinking that you could beat them again after losing to them twice?
Well, it's hard to beat them a third time. So says the streets. That's what the streets say. Streets say it's hard to beat them. Would love to hear you guys' college football playoff brackets. If you want to send those to us on social media, feel free to do so. Jonathan, speaking of the college football playoff bracket, which coach not named Ryan Day, who apparently is fired if he loses round 1, I guess?
I guess.
We can talk about that if we want to. We can pre-fire Ryan Day if we want to. I don't feel the necessary need to do so. But who is the football coach under the most pressure in this college football playoff not named Ryan Day? Go.
I would say that there's 2 candidates that really 3, I would say I could make an argument for. I think James Franklin would be under some pressure here. Like, I feel like Penn State fans really feel like you should beat an SMU team. I think that Marcus Freeman, to an extent, could be under some pressure here. Really searching for a big signature win at Notre Dame. Has not found that yet. I like the matchup for them against Illinois. I think Steve Sarkisian is under some pressure, too. You didn't win any big-time matchup this year that you had outside of the Texas A&M game where you had to win to get into Atlanta, but you lost to Georgia twice. You go and face a Clemson team who has a really good defense and you lose that one. I just think that those 3 names are the ones that I would be circling. More so, though, James Franklin would be the one that I'm really pinning down.
I'm with you on Franklin. I think your route right now, I mean, you've got to be SMU and Boise State to get to a semifinal, okay? You've got a 2022 mid-major schedule to get to a semifinal in the college football playoff. That is as easy as it gets. That is as ideal as it gets. Not to mention, you kind of lucked up into that one thanks to Michigan, okay? Because you even got into the Big Ten championship game because Ohio State laid an egg at home against the Wolverines. So, yeah, I'm with you on James Franklin. I have gone into the territory that Sark is in untouchable waters. Okay. Sark is in, I'm good forever. I am your coach at Texas until I decide to leave. Now, I know he hadn't won a title, but he's put Texas in a level of an echelon of program where they're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. My entire life, I've heard about Texas football. My entire life, your entire life, you've heard about the supremacy of Texas football. Yet, my entire life, outside of Vince Young and a couple of years of Mac, they ain't been shit. Like, they have been Oklahoma's little brother as long as I have lived. And now, all of a sudden, this coach is here. And not only are you winning recruiting national titles, but you're in the college football playoff year in and year out. You cannot ever look at that guy with any type of sideways eyes. He is your football coach, period, point blank.
Yeah, and I think that the reason why I only mention is because you made the playoff last year, didn't prevail in that matchup. Go into the playoff again this year. If you were to some reason slip up against a Clemson, which I do, like if you get past Clemson, you're going to make it to the Final Four. You're going to be in a spot where you should have been. But just because of the matchup against Clemson, you lose another defensive battle. I think there would be some type of questions, but not in the sense of he's under pressure because people are going to start calling for his job. Just more so
Can you win big game type stuff?
Yeah, like the urgency might start upticking a little bit more.
That's fair. Chat's talking about Dabo. I think Dabo's fine.
Dude, you're in the playoff.
You're in the playoff, and you've got regulation coming your way. NIL's not going to be a problem for you moving forward. I think he's survived. That's what I talked about a couple months ago. Like, Dabo's going to come out on this other side so righteous, so self-righteous. He's going to come out of this NIL Wild West that we've lived in the last 3 years, and he's going to have still won ACC titles and still gone to college football playoffs. And his worst season is going to be 9-3 with a first-year starting quarterback. And you guys are he's going, oh, my God, he's going to stand on his high horse so high, higher than he's ever been. He'd be Willie Nelson high out here on the horse.
Yeah, I mean, you won your conference, you're in the playoff, and you won your conference in a year where a lot of people weren't really picking you. I picked Clemson to win the conference. I thought they would win the ACC just because I thought they were the more consistent team historically in the ACC.
You were first anti-Mike Norvell deep state.
Oh, I was. Yeah. I was not
Good
buying.
for you.
I was not buying.
Good for you.
The DJU
storyline saved Florida State $80 million.
I could have. I could have told you, like, just don't even mess around.
Don't do it. Oh man, no, it's Franklin by a mile if it's not Day.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, Lashley's playing with house money. I mean, people think Kirby Smart just had his greatest season coaching ever. It's him by a mile.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is James Franklin.
All right. We broke down Notre Dame and Indiana.
We did.
Over 20K views.
Ooh.
Yeah. One of our first film studies, Jonathan, that wasn't universally loved. Yeah. We had a couple people in there saying homeboy doesn't know what he's talking about. But they watched the entire thing. So Notre Dame, Indiana fans, willing to tell you you're wrong, willing to wait and watch the entire time before telling you're wrong. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. The one thing that Notre Dame fans did tell us we were wrong about and we were correctly corrected with was Notre Dame's nose tackle. Let me get his name. Howard Cross was out in that football game, and it was noticeable against USC. They gave up over 200 yards rushing in that football game.
Okay. Good on Chat. That's what we're here
good
for.
On Chat. Chat, am I getting cooked right now? No, I'm not. Chat's helping me out. Good on Chat. Still think they're movable, though, Jonathan. One All-American nose tackle can change a football game for about 40 snaps. What are you going to do the other 30 snaps? That's kind of important. I think bottom line, looking at that tape, though, I don't know if Indiana will create enough easy offense, right? I think it's going to be methodical for them. I think it's going to take a bunch of snaps to get down the field. How are you going to create explosives against that Notre Dame defense? I think if Indiana wins, they're going to have to win off of defense, special teams, and turnovers. Thank God that lazy bum Christian Kirby's not here to make fun of me for saying that. And no chance he's in the chat, right?
Well, we'll see.
Is
He'll
he in
pop
the
up.
chat?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't think so.
Okay.
People are asking about him.
I'd have been close. Hopefully he doesn't hear us bad-mouthing him over the next 3 or 4 days. Are we committing to noon shows all week?
I think so,
we
yeah.
Yeah, let's commit. Even Thursday, we'll go noon show. So show up with us at noon. Where were we at?
Special teams.
Yeah, special teams. What was your take on that Notre Dame, Indiana study that we did this morning or yesterday?
I was really shocked to see
Friday.
I was really shocked to see the construction of Notre Dame's defensive line. Now, I understand that the cross kid was not in, but not having the big bodies up front, I kind of figured like that'd be Notre Dame's type of style. Like we got some big body defensive players, but the secondary was the most impressive thing for me with Notre Dame. They cover really well, and then you stack that on top of they got linebacker play. Obviously, they've always had great linebacker play, but how good they are there. But it did make me kind of become more interested in the matchup because I think that Indiana maybe could find some success in the run game. If that happens, I think that this is going to be a game that goes all the way down to the wire because if Indiana has everything open to them offensively, then it really kind of puts the pressure on Notre Dame's offense. And if you're putting pressure on Notre Dame's offense, I think that's the best possible place to be for you, especially in a playoff game.
Put it at Riley Leonard's feet, not his legs. Put it at his feet. You know, make him beat you. And I think you've got an opportunity to get out of there successfully. I'm trying to look at this over-under for this football game right quick.
Wasn't it like 11.5?
No, I'm talking about the team totals because I think the under in this football game is the play. I think both of these defenses can create some problems for both of these offenses. I think you're right about the running game for Indiana. If they can just create some type of substantive running game, I'm talking about north of 85 yards rushing, they can have an opportunity to do this. Now, I had some people in that comment section because I talked about some 1.7. We're on the film looking for some 1.7. And what is 1.7? 1.7 is the average yards per carry that Indiana averaged against both Ohio State and Michigan. And I had some Indiana fans hop in the mentions talk about, oh, well, that includes sack yardage. Yes, it does. Why were you getting sacked? Well, because you were in obvious passing down situations. They were able to key up pass rush situations. If that's the case, I think Notre Dame has an opportunity to get home. Here's the question about Notre Dame's defense. They don't have any individuals that I think can win one-on-one matchups in the pass rush department. They have to send extra bodies, which means they play a lot of man-to-man behind it. Can Indiana win some of those man-to-man matchups? They've done a good job all year doing so, just not at this caliber of roster like Notre Dame's.
Yeah, and too, what we pointed out about Indiana's offensive line is really good technicians. They have some good bodies in there.
Oh, dude, the pauses at the snap and at like first 2 steps and then after, it was great film work.
That's the type of stuff high school coaches screenshot, put it in the film room. Hey, this is where we need you. Don't show the rest of the play, though.
Send it to the clinic.
Because they don't stay connected. And I think that that's maybe somewhere where Indiana could get in trouble is, if anything, I think Notre Dame's defensive line will out-effort them. I think that they may not be winning their one-on-ones, but they'll just out-effort them, maybe make plays that way, because that's the way they've been making plays this
Real
year.
lunch pail.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a shout-out Coach Bull. I had a coach, offensive line coach, they used to call them clinic clips. That's a clinic clip right there. Put it on the tape roll. I had a lot of clinic clips. Jonathan. Also, we just got done recording the Penn State and SMU tape. That was fun as well. I don't know if there's a more hold your breath offense right now in college football than Kevin Jennings and SMU. Even his completions make me hold my breath. He does not look confident at all.
No.
But, I mean, at any moment, he could do something completely catastrophic or completely something explosive. He's a walking stick of dynamite.
Yeah, it's Garrett Nussmeier times 2.
But with legs.
Yeah, with legs. It's weird because he doesn't look confident, but he also looks confident.
Yeah, like too confident.
Yeah, like
He looks completely lacks confidence while also plays with like he thinks he's a superhero.
Yeah, he's about to throw this ball off his back foot with a defensive tackle in his lap, and it's going to be catastrophic, but he's going to throw it like he thinks it's going 100 yards to the door.
Yeah. It's crazy to watch. It's terrifying. It's terrifying as an opponent trying to stop him, and terrifying as his coach, I would imagine, because you don't know what's going to happen. Also, one of these classic examples, right? It cost them a football game early in the year against BYU. One of these classic examples of why if you have anybody who's a dual threat in your quarterback room, you have to let that guy go live. You have to let the other quarterback go live too, because you have to see what the difference is between the two. Because it cost them a game against BYU. They're starting Preston Stone. They realize halfway through the season, oh shit, this Jennings kid, when the bullets start flying, he's really, really good. He creates an explosivity for us. We should play him. And those are the only type of answers that you get. TCU had this happen to them a couple years ago with Duggan. They start some other guy, and then Duggan, midway through the year because of an injury, turns into a damn near Heisman contender because when the bullets start flying, they become a different caliber football player. Same thing happened for this Jennings kid. The other thing that's terrifying about this film study that we're going to release to you guys, now, most of it is credit for Oregon's offensive coordinating staff, who is brilliant, by the way, but the other one is criticism. I was terrified by the amount of times Penn State lined up not knowing what they were doing in that football game. That was scary.
And and that was unfortunate because what I was going to say is what I was most impressed with during the film study is probably Oregon, even after watching the other side of it, like watching both teams, seeing how they were going to match up against one another. The only thing I can think of was no wonder Oregon's been winning big football games and just winning football games in general because they were the more prepared team, and obviously, like they knew exactly how to get Penn State into issues, get into conflict. And it showed up every single down for Penn State of having one guy over 2 wide receivers. Oregon immediately checks into it like, hey, we got something going on here. We're going to leak out the tight end. All of a sudden, he's wide open, turns into a touchdown. So knowing that SMU runs with pace, it could create some issues for Penn State. But hopefully you would think with 2 weeks to prepare, that gets cleaned up. You would hope so.
You would hope so. But, they had a full week to prepare for Oregon, and I don't know. It didn't look great. Now, I would imagine that most of that stuff that Oregon did to them, they hadn't put on tape before. So how much of SMU's offense can they draw up in the dirt over these last 2 weeks and create a new game plan to create some type of confusion for Penn State? Last National Hour topic that we have to talk about is a funny one. All this restructuring that's going on with these football coaches, most notably recently with Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell basically warded off them firing him by giving them a buy one, get one.
Yeah.
You get BOGO. You get half off because I suck. That's what it is.
Yeah. So today the news was revealed that, and I love the wording by this from Ross Dellinger of Mike Norvell contributing $4.5 million to Florida State.
Yes.
Contributing.
Yes.
As if like, let me help you out here. I'll take some of my contract. I'll take half of my contract, and I'm going to give it to you. Now, it sounds like it certainly is a way of saying, like, we wanted to fire you, we couldn't, so you're going to have to give us a cut. But also knowing that $20 million is right down the road. Yeah. You're helping them pay, like, what is that, a fifth of it, but through that. So
yeah, but if you're 9-3, you're definitely not doing this.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
But even Brian Kelly, he had to give $1 million. So maybe he does give some. It's just not to
You know
4.5.
You know what Brian Kelly had happen to him? Brian Kelly spent the last 3 weeks, calling his entire booster base broke. And that booster base was like, you know what? Give me a meal back right quick, you son of a bitch. You know what? Come on. Give me that money back right quick. Are you out here calling me broke? Let me check your pockets, Mr. Jet Ski Rider.
Mr. BK, what happened with that Bryce Underwood money? We need that back.
Yeah, you calling me broke? Guess what? You're broke now. Y'all remember that time Brian Kelly was out here double charging LSU for his salary? Do you remember this?
Yeah.
The fans probably don't. The listeners probably don't. Brian Kelly was out here getting his salary paid twice, once through his actual accounts and once through his charity foundation. And after the year was like, hey, oh, by the way, I found this extra $9 million laying around. Y'all want this? Yeah, Brian, we need that money back, buddy.
Yeah, this isn't even like the first occurrence of this. Mike Gundy, he got into this too of, am I going to leave or am I going to take a pay cut to basically come back in? He ended up sticking out with Oklahoma State, taking the pay cut.
Man, I hope inflation hasn't gotten the beer charges at the local golf course, because Gundy's going to be in trouble. You know, I looked up the legal limit the other day here in the state of Georgia. It's 0.08. I mean, that's like, based off my body weight, like 3 or 4 beers. Who hadn't done that 1,000 times? You know? Who hadn't done that one? Should we handle the local hour?
Let's do it.
I'm contemplating talking about Oregon in the local hour.
Okay.
Should we do that?
You want to talk about some Oregon?
Should we do that, though?
No, let's talk about it now if you want to talk about it.
But should we do that? We don't do a lot of negative talk on this network about Georgia football.
Yeah.
Who knows? I might sack up on the other half.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog?
What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grab some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back into our local hour. Some say it's our best hour here. We're going to talk that dog for the next 55 to an hour. I'll be short and quick, okay? We study a lot of tape, and this year more than ever, we've gone outside of the Georgia realm and studied national tape. And every single week, we see more and more diverse run schemes, not pass schemes. I don't care about the pass schemes. You run what you run. You are who you are from a passing game department. I do think Georgia could do their due diligence of becoming a little bit more diverse in the run scheme. That's it. That's all. I think, and look, a couple years ago, all they were doing was inside zone. They were an inside zone football team for years with Sam Pittman, James Coley. All they ran was inside zone. Then Matt Luke got here, and they're like, ooh, let's start pulling guards. Let's start pulling tackles. So they got a little bit more diverse, started running quarterback counter. And I understand the last 2 years, the style of quarterback that you've had has led to more of a traditional run scheme. However, do think we can get a little bit more complex in the run game, all right? I think you got the athletes to do so. So there's that. That's it. Welcome in. We got a load of local hour for you guys. We're going to talk about Julian Humphrey going to Texas A&M. We'll give you a portal update. We'll give you a general portal update, some names that have entered, some names that you need to be paying attention to, some guys that have departed from your roster. Which opponent do you want to win this weekend? We'll talk about that. 7 Cloud. What a story, Jonathan, for the folks to hear today from a comeback story. I love comeback stories. We'll talk about that. We're also going to preview some of these state titles that are going on in the state of Georgia this week. Super excited to go to those. Where do you want to start, Jonathan? I want to start by asking you to hit that thumbs up button. I also want to ask you to go ahead and support those who support us, our friends over at BetUS. If you're looking for a new book this season, BetUS is indeed the answer. Head over there today using promo code YouTube150. You get 150% deposit match on your first time deposit and 125% deposit match on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000. Over there at BetUS, again, that promo code is YouTube150. See a lot of people in the chat right now, Jonathan, talking about how this is the greatest show on the internet. And I happen to agree. I happen to agree with you. We are on the doorsteps of 40,000 subscribers. We're on the precipice. So here's what I need. I need guerrilla tactics. I need guerrilla marketing tactics from this audience. I need you to go out in the streets, and I need you to spread the good word, for there is a ball knower. For there is a ball knower around here, and we got some good merch coming up soon.
Ooh,
Yeah,
new merch?
We got some new merch. We got some certified ball knower shirts we're gonna be selling. Yeah, we're gonna get those out. And look, no markup. I ain't even gonna make money on them. We out here spreading the word. That's all we're trying to do, is trying to spread the good word for there is a ball knower. So go ahead, get on everybody's phone you got. All right. I used to, back when I was trying to spread the first podcast ever released,
Yeah.
I grabbed my boss's phone. I'd subscribe, leave 5 stars. I grab his wife's phone when we were at dinner or lunch. I'm subscribed. Every phone I could grab. Every phone you could grab. You need to head to YouTube, subscribe to the Film Guy Network, get this sucker up to 40,000 subscribers like that. Lickety split. And then after that, we're at 50. And then I ain't going to talk about another milestone until 100K.
I love it. I think that's only right.
We're just going to elevate goals. That's what we're going to do from now on. So make sure you're doing your part in spreading the good word. Julian Humphrey, Texas A&M. I don't think we need to talk about this too much in the local hour. We talked about this the other day. It was pretty clear. He lost his job in the middle of the season. I don't think the timing of it was ideal, but it was 4 days difference. That's really it. It was 4 or 5 days difference between him announcing when he did and waited around till after, the portal actually opened. I don't think this is a big deal.
No, I don't think so either. And everybody knew the deal when he entered the portal. It's one of these rare situations where there aren't a whole lot of questions of why a kid is entering the portal. It was very clean cut and dry. The only issue really at this one was people had some issues with the timing of it, doing it before the SEC championship game. Even some of the players seemed to have an issue with it as well. But outside of that, we knew the deal, that you knew that one of Daniel Harris or Julian Humphrey was probably not going to be on the roster after this year because one of them was going to take the starting job. Daniel Harris comes in late in the season and steals a job right away. I mean, really, as soon as the second half of the season started, it was Daniel Harris getting plugged in, and outside of that, it was his turn.
I mean, honestly, I thought it was a great example of roster retention to even keep both of them on the roster this year.
Absolutely.
You had Ellis Robinson in there in December, right? Late December, practicing during bowl season. Everybody saw it. Everybody knows. Everybody could see it. They're all dudes. They look at the other guy and go, shit, he's pretty damn good. He's pretty damn good. And he's coming right behind me, all right? And, yeah, Kamari's practicing during bowl games, but not a ton, okay? So they got to see the lay of the land. They got to see what it was. I thought it was a tremendous job of roster retention, even keeping, Daniel was the guy that was playing from behind the entire time. To keep Daniel Harris on that roster was impressive. He hit the portal. They did something in that meeting to let him know that, hey, you don't need to be checking out these other pastures right now. You need to be seeing how green this grass is because it might be yours.
And ultimately, I know that maybe it didn't play out how Humphrey wanted to, but I would still say that it was highly beneficial that he did come to Georgia and come back to Georgia this year because you played in 10 games, and that's 10 games worth of tape now that you built upon, whereas last year you're entering the portal with, like I said in the national hour, of you had a great game against Missouri, you got some playing time against Ole Miss. That was kind of really all anybody was going off of. Now, Missouri tape was probably your best tape, but you put together great tape against Texas, and you had some other bright moments this year. So teams like Texas A&M had a lot more to go off of this year than they would have last year. So it was still very, very beneficial for both parties to come back. You seem puzzled.
Yeah, somebody asked me my top 10 anime characters of all time. My thoughts exactly. Do I strike you as someone who would watch anime?
No.
Does Avatar count as an anime character?
Yeah.
I thought it was a cartoon on Nickelodeon when I watched it.
I think it counts as I'm the wrong guy to ask.
Yeah, my brother was more of the Dragon Ball Z guy.
I never got any of that.
No, me neither.
Pokemon was about it for me.
Yeah. I got into Pokemon a little bit. I was more of a Yu-Gi-Oh guy.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Never got
Green
into
Eyes, White
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Dragon.
Yeah, see, no.
Yeah.
Missing me with that.
Yeah. I know what I had here. You know, you got to make sure you keep picking the right corner. It's very similar to the quarterback evaluation. You don't play a lot of them. And when you get the guy's the guy until he's hurt. So the backup sits there and doesn't develop and seeks playing time the entire time he's sitting on the bench. So when you choose these corners, you better make sure you're getting the right guy. You know, you better make sure you're playing the right dude, because when the other guy leaves, he might go somewhere else and play really, really well. Now, at quarterback, this is headlines times 12, times 100, because right now, A.J. Harris is playing really well for Penn State, and you guys don't seem to care. But if A.J. Harris was a quarterback that was throwing for 4,200 yards, you'd be flipping your wig right now. Okay, so you very, very much so have to make sure you're paying attention and selecting the correct guys when you go into this stuff.
And it seems like Georgia, for the most part, has done a good job of making sure they do keep the right guys and that they are continuing to field out the correct guys. Because, I mean, you have to think, like, defensive back has had some of the most turnover over the years for Georgia, especially considering how much has gone to the NFL. And especially this past year, really got highlighted because you lost Javon Bullard, you lost Tyke Smith, you lost Kamari Lassiter. Those are 3 NFL guys, 3 NFL starters that you were having to find replacements for. One of them you found with KJ Bolden as a true freshman. The other one was Dalen Everett, a returning starter who played alongside Kamari. But you had to find a guy that could play alongside Dalen, and you did find that. You had 2 options. You had 2 really good options, 2 NFL profile type guys. And ultimately, the best thing for you is you found the winner of the group of those 2 players. And now you have another guy that's coming into the next year who's going to be your number 1. Now you're finding a guy to start next to him, probably going to be Ellis Robinson. But I think that's what's been the key for Georgia in this is every single year outside of the year that you lost Eric Stokes and Tyson Campbell, we know who the number 1 is. Now we just got to find the guy to play next to him. Mm-hmm. And you had Darian Kendrick and Keely Ringo, but then after that, it was Keely Ringo is the next guy. Who's going to be at next? It was Kamari Lassiter. Kamari Lassiter is the guy next year. Who's going to be playing next to him? It was Dalen Everett. Dalen Everett's now the next guy. Who's going to be playing alongside him? So they've structured this and stacked this up to where you're not having to find multiple new starters every single year.
The 2 better be ready to become the 1. The 3 better be ready to become the 2.
Yep.
And that's exactly what's happened over the last several years. Now, corner is obviously a position that Georgia has recruited ad nauseum over the last several years and as a plethora of talent. Even when they have a plethora of talent depart from the room as they have in the last several years. Same could be said about the outside linebacker room as Sam Mpemba, the former 5-star edge rusher, hits the portal. Where he's going to go, I have no idea. But this was a football player coming into college that knew it was going to be a developmental process, right? He didn't play a lot of edge rusher until his later years at IMG Academy. So coming to Georgia, he knew, like, I'm going to sit for a little bit. I'm going to have to develop into a better player. What I don't think he expected, and what I certainly don't think Georgia expected, was, of course, Damon Wilson to blossom into a great player, but Quintavious Johnson becoming an immediate threat in this room, Isaiah Gibson showing up here soon, and, of course, Gabe Harris becoming a football player that can play both defensive end and outside linebacker. I don't think there was enough room or enough air in that room for everyone to breathe. Someone was going to have to leave, and Pemba's the guy.
Yeah, and I think that's something that you run into when you take some of these, like, obviously highly talented player in Mpemba, but also a developmental piece, as you're mentioning. And at some point, especially the way Georgia recruits, like, sometimes you can just kind of over-recruit, and that's a good thing for you. It just may not be the best thing for that player to remain here. And we've seen that time and time again with the portal, and I think that's one of the great things about the portal is these situations do work out to where Mpemba isn't just stuck continuing to fight for a starting role or any type of role at Georgia. He can go somewhere where now you've had multiple years of development and maybe you are an immediate place somewhere else.
And this might be a situation where, I mean, because he has no tape, right? He has 0 tape at all. This might be a situation where he goes into the portal, doesn't like his options, and may end up back at Georgia for obviously a lesser price, but you have to wonder if this is like a for sure thing, because a 5-star football player like this goes into the portal. In any other situation, if he has tape, he's like already forecasted to LSU, already forecasted to Alabama. Oh, here's the list of schools. It's been a very, very quiet 12, 24 hours for Mpemba right now.
I mean, really, for a lot of the kids out of Georgia that have entered the portal, it seems like a lot of it has been quiet. Outside of Humphrey, that was the only one where it seemed like there was, like, news was continuing to turn, news stories were continuing to develop, but you've had multiple players now, and it's still been relatively quiet, though, for Georgia on the portal front.
Yeah.
It's been a slow building process. Like, it seems like every so often days you'll get 2 or 3 guys that hit the portal. Like, this past weekend, it was Jake Pope, Justin Rhett, Sam Mpemba, those guys into the portal. But outside of that, it's like, it wasn't like the floodgates just opened and you started losing guys left and right.
Correct. And when guys like Sam Mpemba hit the portal, or even this next player that we're going to talk about, Troy Bowles, who are like 5th, 6th, 7th on the depth chart in a room that's really, really talented, those are the ones that you feel like you can muster. Those are the ones you feel like you can swallow, even though Sam Mpemba and Troy Bowles are 2 great human beings. They've been great Georgia Bulldogs during their time. They've developed, they've practiced hard, they've done all the right things. Just playing time was not on the horizon for these football players. Troy Bowles, I would imagine, is going to go somewhere and make some big, impactful plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you get rotated into Georgia's linebacker room, like in a contributing role where you're seeing the field, you're getting playing time. You're going to find a role somewhere else, because not only does that mean that you were ready to play at Georgia, but that means that you took the time under Glenn Schumann to get you ready to play his style of defense, which means that you're a smart football player. You have an understanding of how the operation works. And if you can understand it at Georgia, you certainly can understand it at another school. And that means you're probably going to be a guy that a program takes, and you're immediately plug-and-play guy. I mean, I know that Jamon Jumas-Johnson started for Georgia, but he went to Kentucky and was immediate play. And I think you've seen that with multiple linebackers like, was it Tresman Marshall? Was that his name? He played for Alabama after being in Georgia for multiple years.
Big minutes.
Yes.
Big minutes for Alabama. You mentioned shoe. I got a little shoe nug if you want it.
Oh, give it to me.
Took a second interview with North Carolina. I think we got our answer, guys. I was wondering going into this process, like in general, the last couple of years, does Glenn Schumann want to be a head football coach? The answer is obviously yes, right? Now we know the answer is yes.
Oh, yeah.
If ever that Alabama job comes open, hello. Also knew the other guy that was, the Belichick thing was a late push. It was like a very last second thing. One of the board of directors got involved. The athletic administration department didn't actually have any involvement with the hiring of Bill Belichick. Do you know who the other name was? It was Glenn Schumann and one other name. Do you know?
Mm-mm.
Tommy Rees, former offensive coordinator at Alabama, was like that close to getting that football job, with Schumann being the other one, and then all of a sudden Belichick came in. So yeah, you've got a head coach in waiting in Glenn Schumann. I think it's a matter of when and what job, based off of what happened this year.
And if anything, what that also tells me is that tells me what other people think of that job at UNC. Like,
pretty high caliber.
Glenn Schumann's going to go from being at Georgia, defensive coordinator, to go be a head coach in North Carolina. Tommy Rees, is he on a staff anywhere?
He's in the NFL right now.
Okay. Tommy Rees in the NFL was at Alabama. He's going to go take the head coaching job at UNC. Like, that tells me everything I need to know about what people in college football think of that job.
Yep. So there you have that. Georgia out on Eric Singleton.
Yeah.
Worth noting. Too expensive, it seemed there. Out on Justice Haynes. Didn't even get involved.
Nope.
Didn't even seem like you gave a phone call there. I think that's a kid who didn't want to play where his dad played.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
I mean, when he hit the portal, I kind of was like, I don't see that one circling back here. Obviously, there's prior connections, and those prior connections.
Most of those were with Dale, weren't they?
I would think so.
I would think so too. Like, obviously, he liked Kirby. There was a relationship with Kirby. Every recruit has a relationship with Kirby, but it was Dale that was doing the recruitment from that one when he was 14 all the way up. So I think most of your ties have kind of departed from the roster.
Yeah, so I wasn't shocked that Georgia wasn't in the mix there.
And by the way, you just had to give a hefty raise to a 5-star that you signed last class, I would imagine, right?
You would think so.
Yeah, a freshman that goes for 700 yards, probably getting a bump.
First team all-freshman team in the SEC.
Yeah. Probably got some tampering phone calls, I would imagine.
Probably.
Yeah, probably for some schools that are recruiting Justice.
I would imagine so.
Yeah. Ohio State. Yeah, no, I think you're good on that one. Now, a player that is on campus either as we're speaking or was on campus today, Dylan Lonergan, the quarterback from Alabama that entered the transfer portal that is now in the mix. Now, here's the deal. I think Dylan Lonergan's a Power 5 starter. I think he has been since he was a junior in high school. I think Dylan Lonergan is exceptional. Now, let's talk about what I think, okay? I think you're playing with fire right now is what you're doing. And I just maybe Gunnar Stockton is a robot, but I think Gunnar Stockton's a human. He's got blood running through his veins, right? And with being a human comes emotions. And I find it really weird, and maybe it's just a visit. Maybe it's just seeing where Dylan's at. Maybe Dylan's comfortable coming in and being known as the backup and being a really good backup. And Gunner's our guy in 2025, and we're recruiting you under the precipice of you being a backup. And if that's the case, then whatever I'm about to say does not matter and it's pointless. But I think you're playing with fire. I think you're playing with fire recruiting a football player or talking to a football player about potentially competing for your 2025 starting job while simultaneously telling Gunnar Stockton he can go win a national title. I think it's weird. I think you're playing with fire, and you're looking at one guy who's 20, 21, 22 years old and saying, hey, we love you, son. We love you, son. Now, go compete your balls off and go win us a national title. Also, by the way, you may not be good enough to be our guy in 2025. That seems weird.
It does seem weird, but at the same time of like what we've always said is Georgia recruits every position the same. Why should you treat the quarterback room any differently?
True. We're about to go play for a national title.
No, I agree. It's definitely conflicting, but I just think that with the history of how Georgia has treated their quarterback room, of if they can add to it, if they can make it better, they're going to. But the only thing that I would say, too, about Dylan Lonergan is this is a kid that you would assume is searching for immediate playing time. He wants to play, as he should.
Yeah.
He deserves to be on the football field. This isn't taking the true freshman that has no experience or anything like that, or like a first-year college player. Like, he knows, like, I still got some time. I still need some development. But I also think that, too, like when they were saying that George and Jackson Arnold are interested, I think taking Lonergan versus Jackson Arnold is very different. I think Jackson Arnold obviously looking to play because he's already played in the SEC. Lonergan hasn't seen the field yet. So maybe it is like weighing the interest of, am I going to go to Georgia, maybe sit around a little while longer, and then see if I can get my opportunity, or am I going to go somewhere else where I'm immediately being plugged into this offense?
Your boy Mendoza was obviously linked to Georgia, and here's the deal. When Georgia's linked to a player, and so is Indiana, and who are the other schools?
Oh, it was some Big Tens.
Yeah, it was some mid-major Big Tens. We know why the Power G logo's up there.
If it looks like the G is out of sorts, like out of place, it is.
Probably is.
It absolutely is.
It probably is.
One
Yeah.
of these things don't look like the other.
Look, we're Captain Mendoza team over here.
Stand up.
We love the Mendoza wagon, all right? But let's be honest. When Georgia's sitting right there in contention with an Indiana logo, we know why Georgia's on the board.
I'm just glad that me as a person doesn't have to ultimately choose between, do I want John Mateer or Fernando Mendoza? Because that would be really conflicting for me. I would probably have to make the hardest decision of my life. I'm glad I don't have to do that. I don't think that there's going to be a decision made there in regards to Georgia's situation, but you better hope they don't end up in the SEC. That's all I'm going to say. They're going to raise some hell.
Mateer is such an Oklahoma Sooner. It's so obvious Mateer is a Sooner. But no, I think, man, and I'm with you. Maybe I'm being soft. Maybe I'm being just a sissy that doesn't understand highly competitive environments, and maybe I'm just a guy with emotions. But we're asking a lot to separate, hey, we believe in you, we don't believe in you next year, or we may not believe in you next year. That's a weird road I'd be going down.
And I don't think Gunner is that personality. I think that he would take it on the chin strap like he has anything and everything at his time at Georgia. I mean, even last year, it had to feel really weird, which I know that they gave the thing of we want 4 scholarship quarterbacks, we want that on the roster, but it would feel really weird to me knowing that Carson Beck is a starter, Brock Vandegrift is no longer here, I'm now the 2. Oh, and now Jaden Rashada is getting on the roster. Like, that would have felt really weird to me from a Gunner Stockton standpoint. So this would be new territory for him.
I didn't even add into the take that this is 2 times over that you've done this.
So, I mean, it would be hard to go over that twice with him. And for you as a person to feel like, oh, yeah, it's okay. Like, we're going to be good. But then again, like I said, like I think Gunner is just like, who cares?
Maybe he's just one of those soldiers.
Might be.
And that was the first take I had about him after the SC championship game. Maybe this is just one of those soldiers that you don't have to. You can just treat like a sword. That's all he is. Maybe he's just a usable object, and he doesn't have emotions. And maybe he's one of these humans. And hopefully, based off of how Georgia's approaching this, they haven't been quiet about this. Mm-hmm. They've called all these quarterbacks, and they act like they're quiet, but they're not. And the quarterbacks turn right around. They tell their agent who just called, or the agent turns around and tells Nakos, and it's like, oh, Georgia's in contention for this quarterback. It's like, yeah, Georgia called. Georgia calls everybody, and maybe they've trained everybody. We are no emotion people. It is business.
Maybe so.
Maybe so. They sure do coach on emotion, though. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They sure do coach on emotion. I mean, their damn coach cried in the post-game conference off this
Couldn't even finish the interview.
Couldn't even finish the interview with Holly Rowe. But she do be doing that. You know, she a tearjerker.
She tug on the heart.
That Holly Rowe. So yeah. We already gave a shout out to BetUS on the local hour. Dane Key supposed to be getting a visit soon. It's an important visit for both parties. I think there's some mutual interest here. I think Dane wants maybe to be involved with Georgia and the idea of playing for a contender like that. And Georgia obviously looking for a potential X body type. This would be one that lines up and makes sense.
This fits the mold of the previous SEC wide receivers that you have taken of. First off, based off of a need, what you need in a profile, what you need in a wide receiver, but also of SEC football player that played at the Mississippi States, that played at the Kentuckys, that played at the Vanderbilts, or even Missouri at the time that Dominic Lovett entered the portal of, this is an upgrade for me based off of the team that I'm going to, but also an upgrade of the personnel that's around me, looking to trying to uptick my numbers as well. You would think that that's certainly how Dane Key feels, knowing that the quarterback situation was abysmal for him this year. It's not looking like it's going to be any better, especially holistically for that football team in Kentucky. So the interest for him to want to go to a place like Georgia, stay in the SEC, familiarity there, have playing against one another, it all fits the molds of what we said, the criteria of Georgia taking transfer kids.
Do you think places like LSU and Tennessee are more advantageous to these portal wide receivers because they know who their quarterback's going to be?
I mean, I would think so.
Right? Like if I transferred to LSU right now, I get to spend the next 8 months practicing with Garrett Nussmeier and throwing with him and being ready in a situation like Dane's where I gotta be plug and go. I gotta go make money.
And I think too, like, well, especially for someone like that who is coming from a spot where the quarterback situation was anything
abysmal.
But concrete, it would be really comforting, I would think, as a player to walk in somewhere and it's like, yeah, this is our guy. Like, this is who we're rocking with this year. Like, you ain't got to worry about anything. Like, bearing anything catastrophic, this is our guy. Like, I feel like that would provide some comfort to you, knowing that there isn't this, like, we're hoping this guy is going to turn into the guy and we're going to be able to rock with him. But who really knows how it's going to play out? We still have these other two guys that we're kind of feeling out, seeing if maybe they could turn into a player for us. Like, it would provide some comfortability, I would think.
We got some super chubs. Says it's another day in paradise. Says, what up, Dame? Now this is Big Noon Kickoff. Now this is Big Noon Kickoff right here. Top Beast Mode says, I was looking for you at the SEC Championship game. No luck. Guys, here's the deal. I'm always on the field opposite of Georgia. So if Georgia's defense is facing this way, I'm looking at them. If Georgia's offense is facing that way, I'm looking at them. Everybody got that? All right, so that's how you can find me. Most of the time, I'm on the sideline until they get close to the red zone. Then I'm in the end zone. All right, that's how you can find me. Say what's up. Holler at me. If you got a sign, I will definitely take a photo of you. My man Jeremiah says, felt like when Daniel got off suspension, he came back and took the job. Maybe Julian got too comfortable, whereas Daniel got hungry when he got back. I don't know if this was the exact situation, but it reminds me of a comment Kirby said about young players beating out old players, right? He said he's never had a year, which Julian is older than Daniel, never had a year where a younger player didn't beat out an older player because he was either better or more hungry. That's happened twice this year, in my opinion. Daniel Harris, Ernest Green, right? Yeah. I think Monroe Freeling has beat out Ernest Green. And maybe Ernest Green stays and goes back to right tackle next year, or maybe Monroe goes to right tackle and Ernest stays at left. But I think we've all looked at 57 as a better option right now than 71. I think we all look at 7 as a better option at corner than 12. So, yeah, I think you're right in the terms of a younger player beating out an older player. It always happens. It happens all across the sport, man.
And I think that had the situation not been what it was this year, of you were banged up a lot for a large portion of the year, you probably would have seen something like this happen at running back, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Of like Nate Frazier getting plugged in. Like you had 3 guys ahead of him. I know that. I know you had ETN. That was your guy. You got him out of the portal. But between like a Roderick Robinson and Branson Robinson,
yeah,
it feels like Nate Frazier was going to get plugged in somewhere. He was going to either they're going to carve out a role for him this year. Now again, it really happened because you had injuries. Like you had to have him. You had to use Nate Frazier, but it probably could have happened there too, I would think.
It's a good point, especially because it didn't even take the injuries. We heard about Nate Frazier doing Nate Frazier things during practice, during spring ball, or during summer camp, and as soon as he got into fall camp, it was obvious that this guy is going to be making an impact on this roster. Still a very deep room,
so deep.
A room that you wonder how they disperse the carries that they do, even when Etienne leaves, assuming that they hold on to Branson and Roderick over the next 20 days. I think I saw where
Cash Jones has another year.
Yeah. It's a lot of bodies in there. And I guess it's great that Georgia does do a running back by committee type of distribution strategy, so you don't have to worry about keeping these guys on the roster. And they know the deal when they sign at Georgia. I'm going there for 12 carries. I'm not going there for 25. What you giggling at?
I'm giggling at, I don't know how to say his name, but GAER in chat said, I'm just sitting here sipping on a cold beer. Sir. And someone said, are you retired? And he says, I just build swimming pools and it's pouring rain, so it's a day off for me.
Oh, yeah. Good for you, man.
I'm just giggling at that.
Dude, I miss a 130 beer. Oh, man. That'll get an alcoholic off the wagon right there. That kind of talk. Woo, boy.
That's one of your top 5, a 130 beer?
Oh, yeah, dude. I got a good top 5 beers. Post-grass cutting beer.
Elite
Beer. Shower beer.
See, I
elite
combine
beer.
the two. I'm a
Post grass shower beer.
post grass cutting shower beer.
Son.
That's SS tier.
Oh man, look out for me. Look out for me. Pray for me, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. We got that one kicked. Not funny jokes. Which opponent do you not want to see?
Not want to see.
Or do you want to see? I got the rundown on all 5. You want it?
Yeah.
Let's do it that way. Here we go. Notre Dame. Here's what would scare me about Georgia potentially playing Notre Dame. Okay. I think their coverage ability is elite, and I think they have a designed quarterback run game. That causes problems. They can cover, their quarterback can run. Historically, that's a problem, all right, for Georgia. So Notre Dame would give me a little bit of scares, especially with Jeremiah Love. Indiana, nothing. Absolutely nothing scares me about the Indiana
Nothing at
Hoosiers.
all.
Nope, not a thing. Not a thing.
I tend to agree. Like,
I think their coach is going to give us some quotes to run.
yeah, absolutely.
That excites me.
I think
Nothing
that,
scares me.
I think that what was leaked of if Georgia were to play Indiana, the spread would be 11.5.
Hammer.
Kind of tells you that not many people think that Indiana would be much of a match for Georgia.
SMU, I'm more scared for them for an inevitable implosion, but I'm also scared that the pace and explosion or explosivity would scare me.
Yeah.
They play with a lot of pace. They can create explosive plays. Historically, they can score points in any given matchup. I think they're going to implode though.
And there's something about a guy like Kevin Jennings where the way that he plays, he's not scared of anything. He's not terrified of anything. So
Which is kind of scary.
Yeah, which is scary for you as an SMU fan.
And an opponent.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary.
Is
the most unpredictable team in the playoff, in my opinion.
I would agree with that. And I think too, like the thought of like this Georgia defense is going to like be this scary factor for SMU's offense. Like it's gonna be frightening. They never see anything like it. Kevin Jennings would be the guy's like, oh, another football game today. Let's go figure it out. And literally try and figure it out on the football field. Like let's just go figure it out.
There's a drawing in the dirt guy.
Yeah.
There's a drawing in the dirt guy. Penn State, the only thing that would scare me about them facing them for a Georgia roster would be Tyler Warren is an incredible individual talent. That's enough. 130 yards from him changes a football game, period. Mm-hmm. Right? They're going to be in scoring opportunities at that point. But also the overall talent on the roster. They're a blue chip program. They recruit in the top 12 every year. They've got dudes any given day. They have a good collective effort. They got an opportunity to beat you. However, I think Kirby Smart would coach circles around James Franklin. Circles. He would just walk him around the entire facility for 4 quarters. I mean, you saw that. You saw how they opened that game against Oregon. Mm-hmm. I've never seen a Georgia defense look that confused. Mm-hmm. Never.
Do you feel like there's any coach on this side of the bracket that Kirby wouldn't do that to?
No. You're not going to coach circles around Rhett Lashley, I don't think. Not around their offense. You're going to beat them. Mm-hmm. Same thing for like Indiana. I don't think Signetti's a bad football coach.
Yeah.
You're just going to out-talent them. Mm-hmm. But matchup, Marcus Freeman, give me Kirby Smart. And obviously James Franklin, give me Kirby Smart. He's going to coach circles around him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I certainly would. As a Georgia fan, you are hoping and hoping and hoping that Indiana finds a way to beat Notre Dame. I think you just offensively and defensively, you feel like you match up really well against them, even with Gunner at quarterback. I think you match up well with Gunner at quarterback against Notre Dame. But the only thing is that Notre Dame does have a good defense. They got a good secondary. They got good linebackers. So there is something that like kind of pushes you back on that to say like, there is certainly a path for Notre Dame to find a way and defensively win them this football game. Riley Leonard does some special things. He has one of his better days. They find a way to win that game. Whereas you look at Indiana, it's like, unless Georgia is just turning the football over at high rates and doing things they've never done before.
Or Curtis Rourke goes unconscious.
Yeah.
Like if Curtis Rourke has 15 NFL throws, they beat you. Mm-hmm. But they're going to win every game if he does that.
And that's the playoffs, you know?
Yeah, that's the playoffs.
Make the big moments, you win the football game.
Mm. Oh, my God. Chat, did we ever find out if Freeman's hairline is real or not? Yes, we did. It is not. Buddy, we didn't talk about that the other day. We need to. It needs addressed.
It deserves a photo on stream if I could have pulled it up.
I mean, my God.
That was lethal.
Dude, his barber let him get up from the chair. Was like, I cooked.
I mean, fresh out of the chair, puts his face on ESPN with, an absolutely painted.
Paint job.
This is wicked.
Going to 2.
All right.
I think we can get it over here. Come on, focus. Come on, man. I'm going to give it 2 more seconds. It's not wanting to focus. Damn it. Dang it. It is straight paint. It is straight paint on my man's forehead. I mean, glistening.
People give the jokes about putting Flex Seal in Ryan Day's beard. That is Flex Seal in that man's hair.
I mean, it's bad. You can't see it. Screw it. Either way.
Just look it up.
Chat, it's bad, chat. It's real bad. They painted my man's forehead
Absolutely.
with the fresh black paint.
It looked like tar.
Yeah. It didn't have the anti-shine on it either.
No.
Like, you got to tell him, hey, I'm fitting to be on TV. Put that lacquer on there that don't shine.
Put on a hat, buddy. Put on Notre Dame visor hat.
Honest to God, where was the PR?
Nowhere.
Where was the PR team?
Nowhere.
My God.
And like
Foul.
Let's paint the scene a little bit here. You were not in a conference championship game. You had all week to do this,
had
buddy.
time.
You had time to be getting ready for this TV interview. Everybody knew that Notre Dame was in the playoff. You were going to sit down with ESPN, Kirk Herbstreit, all the boys on the set, and you were going to do this interview. And we wait till Sunday morning, maybe even Saturday night, to paint the forehead.
Paint it.
Crazy.
Insane work. No way that guy can win a national title. I can't believe the guy that normally sits in that chair tried to deny performance enhancers on that coach.
Disbelief.
Insane. He just didn't want to believe it. You're right.
No, he didn't.
He just didn't want to. Yeah, I get it. We could share a screen. It's not that important, chat. Just know they painted that man's forehead. Boise State. Anything?
The should have been Heisman winners on the team.
You know, I talked to a lot of coaches during pregame, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to air nobody out. But the idea that SEC teams can go into a potential matchup and only have to stop the run, what? Like they're cackling at the idea that they get to do this, that they get to potentially play for hey, who goes to a title game today against you, SEC roster, and Boise State?
This had to have been how Alabama felt when they got to draw Cincinnati in the first round of the playoff a couple years ago. And everybody was building it up like Sauce Gardner, really good football player, NFL football player, probably the equivalent of what they have in Ginty right now. Of like they got one guy that you can really circle, and that is a guy that you should be scared of. But he at least played defensive back of them. Desmond Ridder, we all know what Desmond Ridder is at this point. So like the fact that Alabama's like, punch our ticket right now. Like that's what we could do. That's how anybody on this side of the bracket feels. Give us Boise State. We'll be fine. We'll live.
Except for SMU.
Yeah, except for SMU.
I think SMU is a little bit worried.
Yeah, I would be. I mean,
might have to play with 12 men on the field. I'm just kidding. They've been pretty good against the run this year. Has SMU. Been pretty stout. Got some all-conference linebackers over at SMU. Some real lunch pail guys.
Love it.
Yeah. Love a good lunch pail. Also love a good story. We are in the story business, Jonathan. We tell a lot of stories. We cover a lot of stories. We talk about a lot of stories. And, you know, I obviously cover a lot of high school recruits. I have since I gotten into this industry, and I enjoy doing it. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I can't count how many times I've gone to a high school and seen a really young, talented football player and had a coach tell me something along the lines of, Coach, he's going to be great. Brooks, he's going to be great if he can just get right, or if he can just avoid the problems, or if he can just stay out of trouble. If he can just, he's going to do everything God gave him the ability to do. If he can just. And 9 times out of 10, Jonathan, 99 times out of 100, they just can't. They just can't stay out of it. That player just can't stay out of trouble. That person just can't stay on the right path. That really, really talented individual squanders the opportunity to be everything that they possibly can be. And that's what was happening with Seven Cloud. Seven Cloud was a defensive tackle at McEachern. And as a 14-year-old true freshman, he was 6'4", he was 295 pounds, and he could move like a cat. And everybody knew this kid was born to play SEC defensive tackle. This kid's gonna do something. This kid's gonna go somewhere if he can just stay out of trouble. And by his spring of his sophomore year, he's committed to the University of Georgia. And everybody in his town near McEachern in Cobb County, South Cobb County, knows this kid's going to be great if he can just. And he just couldn't. He just couldn't stay out of trouble. He just couldn't stay going to class. He just couldn't stay doing what he was supposed to be doing. And all of a sudden, I go out there 18 months later, Jonathan, and I'm standing next to a Georgia football coach. I'm like, hey, where is y'all's defensive line commit? Coach looks at me. He said, man, he just couldn't. He just couldn't stay out of trouble. He just couldn't stay on the right path. Hell, he's not. I don't even know if he's in school anymore. 18 months later, I'm looking through the 24/7 player composites, and I see Seven Cloud out here at I believe Butler Community College. Out here at Butler Community College. I know that name. How could you not remember the name Seven Cloud? And here he is getting his life back in order, getting it back on track, just doing the right things. He's just doing the right things. And now he's the highest rated defensive tackle in all of junior college football. He's 6 months away from finishing his associate's degree, and he's 6 months away or 8 months, 10 months away from being back on an SEC roster. These are the stories that give me the goosies, man. These are the stories that make me happy to do what I do, because it crushes me every time I go out on the recruiting trail and I hear, Coach, if he can just, and he just never does. And this one did. This one's going to be back on the right track.
Yeah, it's so refreshing to hear stories like this, because, every now and then on social media, you'll get the videos of the where are they now? And like the most infamous ones I can think of is people off of the show Last Chance U. It's like, where are these players now? And really the only success story I could think of out of that show was Ronald Ollie, who played at East Mississippi Community College.
There's one more, and I'll let you finish.
Goes on to Nicholls State, and he was a really good defensive lineman for them. And but all the other ones just never could get it figured out, got out of football, went down the road.
There's that Jermaine Johnson story.
Oh, Jermaine Johnson, phenomenal
but,
story.
6'6".
Playing
240.
Balling out for the Jets.
Plays in the league.
A couple stories, but majority of them, it's like you hear the stories of like, where are they now? And they're not in football. They're just kind of doing other things, sometimes things that they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. So Seven Cloud will be a member of the 2026 signing class. So he's not going to be on roster this coming up year. He's going to have to finish another year in JUCO and then come to Georgia.
I think it's very commendable too, like knowing that this is the path that you had to go on. Of you go play, I don't know what it's like, but I would imagine like going and playing junior college football. It's you, like you're with yourself. I mean, you're out somewhere where you don't have family. You're not in your home state anymore. You are there to do what you can, doing anything and everything you can. But there's also so many ways that could go wrong. And the self-discipline for you to have multiple, like knowing it's going to take multiple years. This isn't a 1 year stop for you. Like you got to do multiple things right to get where you were, and now you're here.
You've got two things when you go to JUCO. You got yourself and you got your habits. That's it. So how good can you make yourself, and how good can you make your daily habits? Because that's all that's out there. You've got football and what you do on a day-to-day basis to become better at football. That's it. So yeah, you're going to find out. Either you go out there and your self becomes worse and your habits become worse, and that's 90% of the stories out there, or you increase your habits. You become a better person on a day-to-day basis, and that's exactly what this young man's done. So I enjoy being able to do what we're about to do right now, which is go watch Seven Cloud's defensive highlights from his junior college days, having known that this guy doesn't have junior highlights. High school, junior highlights. This guy does not have high school, senior highlights. I don't know, to be 100% honest, if he even got a high school diploma. Okay? That's how far out of the dirt this dude has climbed. So let's go ahead and go on. I don't know what it's going to be moving forward for Seven Cloud, but I think he deserves this. Let's give Seven Cloud 3. Let's break this tape down. Again, this guy, it may never be anything. This may not be Devontae Wyatt. But I hope it is. I hope this is Devontae Wyatt. That's what I hope this is. And by the way, that would be my player comp, because he's got some twitch that this room is missing. This room is missing 6'4", 300, moves like a running back. That's what this guy is, okay? Mm-hmm. Looks like Devontae Wyatt, doesn't he, Jonathan?
Mm-hmm.
And he's wearing that 7, the lateral ability. Look at the lowers on this guy, man. He's built like a big back from the waist down, man. Real skinny ankles, real thick high calf bellies, real wide quads, real thick mm-hms. You know what I mean? Yep. Now, this ain't him against high school kids. This is him against other potential D1 retreads right here, okay? So that is a big man that he is out here bullying on a junior college level. That's a 6'4", 300-pounder. This is Kansas JUCO, Jonathan?
I believe so, yeah.
So this ain't no slappies, all right? This ain't, no offense to anybody coming out of Georgia Military College. This is not Georgia Military College tape. These are all Division I kids that are going to play at Kansas, K-State, Michigan State, Georgia, Ole Miss. These are all dudes trying to get out of junior college football right here. Midwestern thoroughbreds. I lost him on that tape.
Whoa, he
picks up the ball. He picks up the ball. He's in a different number here. Oh, show me some athlete.
Big man Tud.
Oh, stiff arm.
Oh,
2 stiff arms. I love it. I love that was the last clip, too. I love that. I don't know of another story like that, Jonathan. I haven't covered one. Like that. Oh, my. Holy. I got a golden ticket. Like a Oompa Loompa out here.
One thing that I noticed on there was stays on his feet.
Yeah.
Really good athlete. That's
Yeah.
what I noticed. Like contact balance and everything. Like he was continuously on his feet. Even so much so that when he picked that ball up, it took like 4 different guys to finally get him on the ground. Really good athlete.
Yep. And one that you didn't have to take right now. Right? You got ample time to get this one in the mix. He wanted to be a Georgia Bulldog. You want him to be a Georgia Bulldog. He gets to wait out his last year of junior college knowing where he's going. What a settling feeling for that young man, you would imagine.
Yeah. I love it.
I do too. Too many bad ones. Too many stories that go down the wrong path and never come back out. One distinctly in my mind right now. I'm gonna go check up on him after this and see where he's at. Some state championship games today, Jonathan.
Yeah, talk about him.
Yeah, I'm gonna be dipping out of here and heading to a couple of them right now. Bowden plays Brooks County to start off the state title run here over the next 3 days in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Bowden's got a really, really Caden Prothrow is his name. Don't know what he's going to play in college. Don't know if he's going to be a tight end. Don't know if he's going to be a defensive end. What I do know about him, Jonathan, he's 6'6". He's 220 pounds. He power cleans 315.
All you need to know.
That's all you need to know. Sign him up. Probably going to play on Sundays. That's what we're going to watch in a couple of hours. And then the nighttime football game, we got a dude. And my first time seeing him in person.
I was going to say, I think this is your first time.
I'm really excited. I missed him in 7-on-7 this circuit this summer, but Landon Roldan and North Oconee are going to take on, I believe, Marist at 7 o'clock tonight. So we'll see triple option versus triple threat in Landon Roldan. So it'll be the Landon Roldan and North Oconee show versus Marist and the triple option.
Maybe, he runs really fast, Landon does. Maybe they put him in a pseudo Roquan Smith role like they did against Georgia Tech. Just running tackle.
Fine ball.
Just running tackle.
I like this. North Oconee coach, bad time to make a new game plan. But he's got a good one served up on a platter for you right there.
Just running fine ball.
I had a coach, Jonathan, before a state playoff game. I shit you not, before a state playoff game, we're playing a triple option team. And during walkthroughs at the field. Oh, no. During walkthroughs at the field, decided I slept on it last night, boys. I figured it out. We're going to change who's got fullback, quarterback, and pitch right now in pregame walkthroughs. We gave up 476 yards of rushing that night. We won 42-41.
Oh, you won.
Yep.
Hey.
Thank God.
Thank
God. Yeah, I love you, Coach. I will not name your name right now. I love you, Coach. But if I'm facing off against my high school head coach today, at lunchtime, we're installing the triple option. And we are going to box his ass for 4 quarters because he ain't never to this day figured it out. And he never will. And I love him to death. We'd die for the man. Just hope we're not playing a team that's running the triple because we're dying today. Appreciate you guys for being here. We'll see you tomorrow at noon. We'll see you tomorrow or right after this. All right, for an upload of Indiana versus Penn State SMU film. That's what we've got coming up right now on this channel. Appreciate you for being here. Love you. Bye.